Hello, my name's Charles Richardson, and I'm the professor for MAN1107, and I want to try a little bit of an experiment and do a recorded presentation to see if this kind of helps with you to better understand the material for this course. So at the end of this, and I'll do this for the balance of the term, at the end of the term, if you want to send me a quick email to let me know whether this helped or not, I would appreciate that. So today we're going to talk about Chapter 14, which deals with technology. And there are 7 objectives for this particular chapter. One is we want to distinguish between data, information, and information systems. 2, we want to be able to list the components and types of information systems. 3, discuss computer hardware and software. 4, describe computer networks. 5, discuss the security and ethical issues affecting information systems. 6, explain disaster recovery and backup. And 7, review information trends in the industry. Now, when you think about technology, you think about data and information, which are very, very different. Data are just raw facts and figures. But information is what I can gain from looking at those facts and figures in totality. For example, I worked for a number of years in the auto industry. So if I were to look at sales for January, that would tell me something for January, then February, and every month. But if I were to take all those figures together and look at sales, I will notice, or you would notice, that between March and September would be the peak selling season for cars. So by taking all information, putting it together, those raw facts and figures, I now have generated some information. Now, information systems can be effective, okay, and it can help a business run more efficiently. An effective information system can help answer questions for business like, can we communicate more effectively and efficiently? How will rising energy prices affect product and distribution costs? How well is our product selling in Atlanta, for example? Or have sales among consumers aged 25 to 45 increased or decreased? Now, information has gotten more and more attention in terms of the importance for a business. And in the past, you always had the chief executive officer for a company or the chief financial officer or chief marketing officer for a company. But lately, information has gotten more attention. And now you have, at the top of the technology organizational chart, you have something called the CIO, or the Chief Information Officer. And this person is responsible for all the information systems and operations for a company. Now, information systems rely on computer and related technologies to store information electronically in an organized and accessible manner. In the past, information systems may have included something like a 3x5 card to include information on my customers, but nowadays it's definitely more sophisticated. Computer-based information systems consist of basically 4 key components and technologies: computer hardware, computer software, telecommunications and computer networks, and also data resource management. Let's talk about these in a little more detail. There are 2 types of support systems in IT. You have operational support systems, and then you have management support systems. Operational support systems are designed to produce a variety of information on an organization's activities for both external and internal use. A great example of a transactional processing system is in the retail industry. So when you go into the store and you are buying something, and when that salesperson uses the cash register, that's an example of a transaction processing system, because you are doing a transaction with them and then using that to run the day-to-day part of the business. Another operational support system are called process control systems. And that would be something that would allow me to run a process within a company. For example, I have a good friend of mine who works in a machine shop, and he has responsibility for monitoring a computer to make sure the parts fall within a certain specification. So he uses the computer or this type of control system to make sure the process is within the parameters which you need to be in order for it to produce a quality part. You also have management support systems. So you have management information systems, or MIS, and those aid in making effective decisions. Okay, and they produce reports for managers. You have decision support systems, which provide support to business people during the decision-making process. So many times these things will allow me as an executive to do what-if scenarios. If I do this, then that. And then you have executive support systems, which are very high-level reports that maybe senior managers will use in order to make key decisions about the business. Computer hardware is really the tangible or the elements of the computer system which I actually can touch. So as you sit there in front of your laptop and you can touch the keyboard, if you have a desktop, you can touch your monitor, or you can touch your keyboard. Those are examples of the tangible parts of computer hardware. Now, hardware is, again, a very key part of any computer. So unlike the desktop computers that sit on your desk at home or school, there are a bunch of different types of computers out there. Okay. The different types of computers, okay, are varying. You have desktop computers, which are everywhere: homes, schools, government agencies, businesses, you name it, and they probably have a desktop computer. I do my work at Sinclair on a desktop computer. Most desktop computers are connected to networks that are managed by servers. Now, these servers are a way of storing information. Now, mainframes and supercomputers are larger computer systems with very, very powerful processing and storage capacities. Many of us, instead of having desktops, maybe have notebook computers or laptops. And these become more popular as the prices of these have fallen. I know right now I'm actually doing work from home using a laptop. More and more people have things like tablets, like iPads or e-readers. I know that people might have a Nook or a other type of e-reader to read on. Nowadays, even the smartphone you have probably sitting beside you or near you is actually an example of a computer. And they actually can process information very, very quickly. It's amazing how far it's come from the 1950s, when it took an entire room to store a computer that might be able to do 2,000 calculations in a second. Now you have a smartphone that can do millions of calculations in a matter of less than seconds. It's amazing how far technology has come. The other part of a computer, if you think about the computer hardware being something you touch, maybe things that you really can't touch will be considered the computer software. So there I'm talking about things like programs and computer languages that control computer and tell it how to operate. The software that tells the computer how to operate is called the operating system. So the most used one out there is a Windows operating system. If folks have a Apple PC or desktop, they use a different operating system called Mac. Most users are probably familiar with application software like Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, or Quicken if you run your business, which is an accounting software. Now, the future of software is uncertain, with more use of the web and web applications becoming more and more prominent in the workplace, in school, and also businesses. Now, here is a chart which lists a variety of computer application software. So as you look at those, just think about how many of those do you use. I know on a daily basis I use Word, I know that a class that was being taught here at Sinclair across a variety of different classes, they use Google Docs to share information. In my previous job as a financial analyst, I use Microsoft Excel on a daily basis. This presentation I'm giving to you right now is being done obviously on Microsoft PowerPoint. I teach a advertising class here, and I have a lot of visual communication students, and I know they are experts in using things like Adobe InDesign or Microsoft Publisher. As I mentioned before, there are other software that are used for businesses like Quicken or QuickBooks, and you have some database programs. The main one out there, which folks do use sometimes, is Microsoft Access. I know that from a business standpoint at Sinclair, the way I get my email from my colleagues and from students like yourself is through a Microsoft Outlook. And then you have some other enterprise resource planning tools that companies do use. Local area networks and wide area networks, or LANs and WANs, allow businesses to communicate, transmit, and print and share data. One of the largest networks is the Internet. We all know about the Internet. There are Internet virtual private networks, or VPN, and also voice over Internet protocol, VoIP, are all the byproducts of the Internet. Most organizations connect their offices and buildings through a local area network, while wide area networks tie larger geographical regions together. Wireless networks allow devices to be connected without the hassle of cables and wires. And the current standard is Wi-Fi. So, for example, at Sinclair, my office is located on the second floor of building 3, and there's a printer or copier on the first floor. So I can, if I have to, print down to the copier on the first floor using a Wi-Fi network. Many people access Wi-Fi connections at places like Panera Bread or McDonald's when they're there to either do work or to just have a quick bite to eat. Now, these spots are becoming more and more popular as free service in public places becomes more prominent. Now, intranets are private company networks that are kind of patterned after the internet. It is an external intranet and can be used to share information within a company. Virtual private networks are secure points on the internet that help organizations with increased security. So when you hear things like firewalls, that's an example of a virtual private network. Now, voice over internet protocol is an alternative to traditional telephone service. Now, it is a telephone service that uses the internet to relay telephone calls. The phone line is connected to the computer instead of a traditional phone jack. Now, if you think about it, even though there are a lot of benefits of Wi-Fi, can you think of any drawbacks to Wi-Fi if you're a company in business? Would you have any concerns on the security of that? Think about that for a minute. Security issues, e-crime, computer viruses, worms, Trojan horses, spyware. E-crime and malware are major security issues nowadays. E-crime may or may not be malicious. Some of the stunts online are simply to see if a user can hack a system. Common e-crimes include changing data to create misleading information and modifying computer programs to create either false or illegal transactions or to access computer systems for their own benefit or knowledge. Individuals, businesses, organizations are vulnerable to computer crime. Another threat for an organization is the potential theft for computer hardware. Malware are malicious software programs designed to infect computer systems. Viruses are programs that secretly attach themselves to other programs and change and destroy them. A worm is a small piece of a software that exploits a security hole and replicates itself. Now, a Trojan horse is a bigger issue. That's a program that claims to do one thing but does something entirely different. It might claim to be the game and then erase your whole hard drive. Spyware is software that secretly gathers user information for really advertising purposes. Once spyware is installed, it monitors the user's activity. Now, there are all kinds of ethical issues in information technology that raise concerns and issues. Many organizations have specific ethical standards and policies regarding the use of information systems by employees and vendors. There are also policies to protect security and privacy confidentiality. Monitoring employees and access to employment records are also ethical issues affecting information systems. Let me ask you this question. Let's say you're interviewing for that dream job. So you just graduated from Sinclair or almost ready to graduate from Sinclair, and you're interviewing for that dream job that you always wanted. And you're interviewing with the person. It's going great. You're answering questions. They like what you're saying. And then at the end, they say, hey, one last thing. Hey, let me check out your Facebook. So can I have your ID and also your passport to get in there? Is that ethical for a company to do that? Is it ethical for me as a company to watch what you do when you're at work? To watch where you're surfing? To watch how you use the internet? Is that ethical? Is it within my rights as an employer? These are key issues that businesses deal with. So, if I'm smart, I understand that things happen. And so, by thinking that way, I know I need to have some type of disaster recovery and backup. Because you have no idea what might happen. Is it going to be a natural disaster? Is it going to be a tornado that might destroy your servers? If there's a power failure, what do you do? If you have just some basic malfunction of your equipment, maybe there's a software glitch, maybe there's a human error, maybe there's some type of terrorist attack. What have you done to make sure you're protected from a backup standpoint? I'm sure we all heard of the cloud. So a cloud is the same idea as you're saving information to a flash drive, or you save information to your hard drive on your laptop or your desktop. The cloud's the same idea. I'm storing information, but I'm just not storing on my laptop or my flash drive. I'm storing on a server someplace else, or a hard drive someplace else, or a flash drive someplace else. Now, the reason I might want to do that is because I then can access that information anywhere. So I don't have to be at home where my laptop is. I can be at work. I can be at school. I can be at grandma's house. I can be in a variety of places if I need to get access to information if it's on the cloud. Now, with that being said, you know there are some challenges with that. How secure is the cloud? I know the last couple of years I've heard of many instances where celebrities had their cloud hacked, and pictures that they've had that were personal to them actually were made available to the public. So again, there's some good things and bad things. But the key here in this particular one is you need to make sure to have some type of backup. So what are some trends in the information industry? One thing to think about that I want to talk about here, and you see mentioned that I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and talked about cloud, which is talked about here. But the one thing I want to talk about in this one is as more employees are being allowed to work from home or work from virtual offices, it becomes an issue. For example, my wife is allowed to work from home. She works at Procter & Gamble. She's allowed to work from home 2 days a week. So when she works from home, she still needs to have access to everything she would if she actually were in the office in downtown Cincinnati. So when she gets up every morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she actually has access to all the systems there at Procter & Gamble. Now, you can imagine the challenges that has to make sure that those systems are secure. Now, one thing I want to end with is that technology obviously is something that's here to stay, but then hopefully you've heard over the last couple of years of these things they call these big data breaches. And there's an article that is in Forbes magazine, and it was written by a writer a reporter, Bill Hardcomb, and he talked about big data breaches of 2014. I just kind of want to read a couple of these to you to give you perspective. I think the biggest one we heard of back in 2013, 2014 was Target, when they had, I believe, they had over 40 million debit and credit card numbers that were stolen during the holiday season in 2013. But it wasn't just Target that had issues. For example, I know I like ice cream, and at Dairy Queen in August of 2014, they began an investigation into a breach of data in their stores. They had over 395 locations where that had affected nearly 600,000 debit and credit cards. The company found that there was some malware that was in their system that captured customers' names, debit card, credit card numbers, and their expiration dates were also compromised. Home Depot, whether it's Homes or Lowe's, Home Depot actually is the world's largest home improvement chain. And they confirmed they had a whopping 56 million credit and debit cards were affected by a data breach back in November of that year. The hackers also stole 53 million email addresses. What about Jimmy John's? Jimmy John's is a great sub place, up and growing sub chain. In late September of 2014, they confirmed that criminals had hacked into their point of sale systems at 216 stores and accessed customer debit and credit card information. So if you think about it, this tells me that through these examples that technology is very, very important in a company, but also your ability to protect that is very critical. Hopefully you've gotten something out of this. And again, as we get to the end of the term, if you want to send me a quick email, let me know whether you like this or not. I would appreciate that. Have a good one.